guys, welcome back to my channel, and it's finally time for me to start my series, What I Learned in Grad School This Week, where I'll be telling you and giving you lessons on exactly what I learned in my Master's in Data Analytics graduate school program. As you can see, I also got the fade. I apologize for being nappy in my past few videos. The Jimmy Butler is gone. I got the fresh skin fade. Fortunately, it only lasts for about 5 days, so it's already growing back, but look a lot fresher. Let's get right into it. Just to give you some background, I started a master's program in August 2020. It's a 2-year program, and each semester I'm taking 6 credits, and there's 3 semesters in a year. So last semester was mostly intro classes, that's why I didn't cover it. I also didn't have a YouTube channel. But this semester is all about data management and data visualization, which are 2 topics that are going to be very important to you guys if you're trying to get into the data field. This semester we're covering SQL, Tableau, and Python. Also 3 very important things, 3 very important tools that you're going to need to know if you want to get into the data field. So the way that it's structured is the first few weeks we've been working on SQL. And we've been starting from the ground up. So this is going to be great for you guys who have not been exposed to SQL or don't know anything about relational databases or basic database structure. So what I'm going to do today to start it off is bring you through basic SQL commands and give you a little bit of background on databases. So since we're just getting started in our program, we're just learning basic SQL commands. I've been practicing SQL for a while now, so I'm pretty comfortable showing you all of these things and working with them. So if you've never seen SQL before, it's a very readable language. As you can see right here, a lot of times you can actually read it without having known SQL before and kind of understand what the query is doing. So let's start off by saying we're here at w3schools.com. This is a great resource. You can see you can learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and we're working on SQL, Python, and many other languages here. They give you very good tutorials, and they actually give you an interactive interface where you can actually run code in the browser to actually see what each line of code is doing. So let me bring you to my assignment. For this week, you can see right here, we're actually assigned to go to w3schools.com and start going through each one of these things on their page and start looking up every single one of these commands. So in this video, I'm going to try to bring you through every single one of these commands first, so you'll have a very basic understanding of SQL after this video, and the next video will start to get more advanced where we start joining tables and doing other things like that. So let's get into this. So first off, SQL stands for Structured Query Language, and it is the language you use to manipulate databases. It's the language you use to interact with all your data. You're gonna need to know it. It's the language, it's pretty much the foundations of any data professional. Luckily, a lot of companies will hire you even if you don't know it that well because it is not the hardest language to learn. It is very readable. So RDBMS is a relational database system. It's the basis for SQL, and you're going to be using SQL when you're in a relational database system when you have tables that you're going to want to interact with each other, that you're going to combine, merge, join. So basic SQL syntax, all the actions that you're performing are going to be known as statements, and all statements begin with the select statement. It's literally defining what you're actually taking from the database, what columns you're taking. So all SQL statements are going to start with the select statement, and they need to end with the semicolon. While the statement will still run without the semicolon, if you have statements on the same query and the same script, if you have one above the other, it will give you an error when you try to run them both. So you're going to need to separate statements with this semicolon right here. And here are some of the most important commands: select, update, insert, into, create database, alter database, create table, alter table, drop table, create index, drop index. We will be getting into a few of them right now. Most of these, honestly, create database, alter database, create table, alter table, drop table, create index, drop index. A lot of these you're really only going to need if you're a data engineer, or if you're actually building the database. A lot of times when you're an analyst or a scientist, you won't even have permission to add or drop or alter any of the tables. So let's get into the basics right now. So let's start off with SQL select. Every statement starts with a select statement. You can see right here, select is where you define what columns will be selected. Right here, select column 1, column 2. Pretty basic. Only thing really need to know here is that you can either define what columns you want to select, saying column 1, column 2, the names of the column, or you can use this star symbol to say that you're selecting all the columns from that table. So the great thing about W3 Schools is it actually lets you have demos, so you can actually demo the SQL code. So right here, you can say select customer name city from customers, and you'll run it, and you're selected customer name and city. But if you wanted to select all the columns, what do? Put a star right here, run the SQL, and now you have all the columns. Pretty simple right there, right? Next, we're going select distinct. So if you see select distinct, this means you want all the unique values in the columns. So very similar to select, but this one you want unique values in the columns. You don't want any repeating values. So if we're pulling this, you want only, say it was select distinct customer name, you wouldn't see this, whatever this person's name is. You wouldn't see this person's name twice. You would only get how many distinct or how many unique customers are in this. You wouldn't see any repeats. So it's here, select country from customers. You're going to see some repeats. Look, you're going to see Germany twice because there's no select distinct. So if we do select distinct, you can now see that there is only one record for each country. There's no repeats. Every country here is unique, okay? And of course, right here where it says from, this is where you're defining what table you're pulling this data from. You see right there, from that table. Let's get into the where clause. The where clause is where you're defining conditions for when you're pulling your data. Say you don't want every row. Say you don't want any record. Say you're pulling for a database of people's heights and you only want people above 6'5". Then where is where you put that conditional statement to filter the data. And it's getting pretty dark in here, so let me turn on some light. I did my best, got a little bit more light in the room. But anyway, back to this. Let's go right here to the demo. So this one select all columns from the customer table where the country is equal to Mexico. Like you said, SQL is great, it's very readable language. You can tell what it's doing right there. We're selecting only the records where the country is Mexico. So you can see country only Mexico, and then you can see all the data from that table. Pretty self-explanatory. Obviously, if we ran it without the where clause, we would get all the records. Then we run it again with the where, we get only Mexico. Side note, to comment out code, you use these two dashes, and then it will not execute the line that you commented out when you're running your query. Now inside the where clause, you can have more than one condition. So you're going to need the basic logic operators and, or not. So the and syntax means both of these conditions must be true to return the record. Or means either one of these must be true. Either one of them can be true for you to return the record. So or means either one can be true for you to return the record. They don't both have to be true, but just one of them has to be true. And not means this condition cannot be true. So let's go ahead and try it out. Let's go ahead and start with the not first. Select all columns from customers where the country is not Germany. As you can see, there's no Germany in the country column. Now let's find it out. Let's find an example with and or. Here we go. This is actually a combination of both. So it's saying select all columns from the customer table where the country equals Germany and city equals Berlin or Munich. So this is using both of the conditionals, and what this is saying is, number one, the country must be Germany, and two, the city can either be Berlin or Munich. Okay, so you get country Germany, city Berlin or Munich. So if you were just to change this up a little bit, let's say select all from customers where the country equals Germany and Berlin. So you would no longer get this Munich row. It's just Berlin. But what about or? You're going to get a lot more data because, or I guess, well, if it's in Germany, it's in Berlin. You're going to get a lot more data because now it can be in any city in Germany. So this is pretty much irrelevant, this last part, because you're going to get all the cities in Germany. Does that make sense? Now let's move along to the order by clause. This one is actually how you order your data once you returned it. So this is how you order your data once you've returned it. Order by is just a way to sort your final results. So here, let's go straight into this. Select everything from customers, order by the country. So what it's going to do here is order country in alphabetical order. If it's a categorical value like country, it's going to order it in alphabetical order. So you can see country, alphabetical order. Now what they didn't put here is you can actually choose how you're ordering it. So by default, it's ordering it in ascending order, which is alphabetical order. So that didn't change anything because by default, it's ordering it by ascending order. But then if you wanted to put it by descending order, in this case, it'll be reverse alphabetical order. You put DSC, that stands for descending at the end. And now you'll get it in reverse alphabetical order, okay? This is also true for numerical values. If you put ascending or you just leave this blank right here, it'll start from the smallest number and go to the highest. Most of the time with numerical values, you want to go descending though with the largest quantities on the top. Insert into, if you're working and you do have permission to edit tables, you will use this to create tables. If you're working and you do have permission to edit tables, you'll use this to put values into the table. So try it yourself. So this is the customer tables we've been working with. So let me see. So let's see what the table looks like before. Here's what this looks like before. 91 rows, take note. And then when we write this, so we run this and then it has inserted this into the database. You can see it has added one row into the database. And just in case you want to check, now you see it has 92 rows, so you can see we added that one row. Next up, null values. So what is a null value? A null value is when there's data in an entry that is missing. So let's say you have a table, and for the customers table, let's say you don't know somebody's name, that would just be left blank, which in this case is called null. That just means that the information is missing. So a lot of times you'll see the word null in the where clause because you're only going to want to return data that is complete. So a lot of times you'll see in the where clause something like return where this column is not null. In other words, return only entries where this column has a non-missing value, where it's complete data. And this is standard. It says is not. This one is not null. This one is only returning where there is missing values. Excuse me. Try it yourself. So it's only going to return values where the address is missing. And I guess there are not. So if you run it where it says is not null, you can see address is always populated. Now this update statement is exactly what you think it is. It's for updating a table. So the insert statement inserted into a table, but the update statement actually replaces existing data in the table. So you can see right here, we're updating the customers table again, and we're setting contact name equal to Alfred Schmidt and the city equal to Frankfurt where customer ID equals 1. So the set command shows the data that you're putting into the table, and where specifies what data will be replaced. So it's saying replacing where customer ID equals 1, we're putting in Alfred Schmidt and the city is Frankfurt. So we run that. And then let me just show you, just in case you don't believe me. And there you go, contact name Alfred Schmidt, city equals Frankfurt. And I'm back. Don't even know if you knew that I left, but got disconnected for a sec there. Right back into that though. Now we're on to the delete statement. So the delete is another way to manipulate a table. It's where you delete certain rows, certain entries from a table based on a certain condition. So you'll see delete from this table based on this condition. So if we were going to delete something from this database, say we wanted to remove a table, remove the entries where customer ID equals 3 because we don't want them in our system anymore, we would just say delete from customer table where customer ID equals 3. Here's the example they give you. Delete from customers where customer name equals what? Oh man, these names are crazy. So we're running that. As you can see, rows affected equals 1, deleted 1 row. So even though SQL is universal languages, there are slightly different things in the syntaxes depending what version of SQL you're using. I myself have used SQL Server a lot. So I myself have used SQL Server a lot. Other people have used MySQL a lot. There's just small things that are different in each one, and this is one of them right here. So select top, limit, or row number. This is how you specify how many rows you want to return, because sometimes you're pulling from millions and millions of data, and you only want to get an estimate, or you just want to get a visual of what the table looks like. So you don't want to return all these millions of rows. So you just say select top, which will return the top 10 rows, or select limit, which you specify the limit of how many rows you want to return, and your query will run very fast. And your query will run very fast. Your query will run very fast. So for SQL Server, you're going to use the top command, which is saying you say top certain number or percent of the rows that you want to return. So say you're querying a table with 100,000 rows. You could say select top 10, and that'll return only the top 10 rows. Same exact thing here, except instead of saying top, you have to say limit 10, which is limiting the amount of rows you're returning to 10. And if you're using Oracle, you're going to use this where row number is less than or equal to 10 for this particular command right there. Depends on the type of SQL you're using. Most people, I believe the limit is the most popular one, but anyway, it's just small things to change. So now we're going to get into some aggregation functions. So you can actually do simple mathematical functions in SQL. So 5 of the basic ones you're going to need to know is minimum, maximum, count, average, and sum, which is just basic arithmetic right there. As you can probably tell, minimum and maximum return the minimum and maximum of every column. So minimum and maximum return the minimum or maximum of the column specified. So the way to do that is actually in the select statement. So in the select statement, instead of saying select column, you'll say select the minimum of this column from this table where whatever the condition is. Or you can select the maximum. So right here, and the example they're going to give you is select the minimum price, and select the minimum price from the products table, because we all want to save a little bit of money. So select the cheapest one. And in this query, they've actually introduced us to aliases, which is they're selecting the minimum price and they're renaming that column smallest price. So when it appears in the query we've returned, the column name isn't going to be min price, it's going to be smallest price. It's just renaming the column so it's much easier to read. So right here we're getting the minimum price as smallest price right there. So the smallest price is 2.5. And then we could also change that to max. Side note, SQL is not case sensitive. Maximum price is 263.5. Now the three other functions are count, average, and sum. Count it's funny that I'll say this, but count gets you the count, average gets you the average, sum gets you the sum. That's simple. All of them have the same format, so you would get the count of this column right here. This is how you get the average, and this is how you get the sum of that column. So I'll just do, let's see. Let's do the count of the product IDs. You want to count how many products are actually in the products table. So you're going to get the count right here. Count is 77. Average price from the products table. Try it right there. Very useful to know what the average of something is. Run and you'll get the average price right here. Very simple. And for sum, of course, it's the same exact syntax, same thing. Sum of quantity from the order details table. That's the sum. So like, this is actually going back to our where clauses and other conditions. I'm actually surprised that they didn't do this one earlier. So this is a way to make a condition based on substrings for text. So let's say, so the like operator can be used to pull things from the table that are similar, that have a certain substring in them. So the like command can be used to pull things from the table that have a certain substring in them. And you can determine, and you can specify where you want the substring to appear. Do you only want it to be in the middle of the sequence? Do you only want it to be in the beginning? Do you only want it to be at the end? Or anything. And the way you specify that is by using this syntax right here. You can see the percent sign basically means this is where any other character can be. I actually think it's just better for me to, just actually get into the demo right here, and so you can actually see the results. So this one is returning anything that starts with an A and can have anything after it. So it starts with an A. Percent sign means can have anything after that. So all these entries start with an A and can have things into that. Now if we put a percent sign before, that means the A can appear anywhere in the customer name. It means it can have any amount of characters before the A and any amount of characters after the A. So we'll run that, and it's going to get a lot of results because anytime an A appears in the customer name, you'll return that. And on the flip side, if we did this, it returns an A. Anything, and if we did it this way, it would show anything that ends with an A. So you can see these names all end with A's because it can have any amount of characters before the A, but not after. You could actually put spaces in the name, so you would only get this word by itself. Now the wildcard is very similar to like, but instead of using percent size, you actually use this underscore, specifying that this character can be replaced by any other character. So you're searching for where city is like this. It has a character and then ends with O-N-D-O-N. Sounds like it's going to be London. So you return that, and what do you know? All the cities that have a character and then end with O-N-D-O-N are returned. In this case, it's London. Not sure if there's another city with that. Not sure if there's another city spelled like that. Now we have our in operator, which also goes in the where clause, and it specifies that you only want to return values that are in the list that you're defining. So back to our country table, back to our customer table. This is selecting all records from the customer table where the country is in Germany, France, or UK. Pay special attention to the syntax because the list that you're putting in has to be in parentheses, and it has to have quotes around each item and commas to separate each item. So this is so instead of having to say where country equals Germany or country equals France or country equals UK, you can just put them all in this list. And you'll run it, and it'll give you all the records for these 3 countries that we specified. Between is when you want to define. Between is when you need to define a range of values to return. So you'll see, select everything from products where the price is between 10 and 20. So it's actually inclusive. So it's including the products whose price is 10 and the products whose price is 20. So this could also be done by saying where price is greater than or equal to 10 and price is less than or equal to 20, but it's just so much easier to write it this way, where price between 10 and 20. Love how readable SQL is. You read it and you know what it's returning. So you'll see price 18.19, and you can see it's inclusive. It's including the number 10, and it's including the number 20. And alias is something that I already said before. Alias is just when you select a column as alias name, that's just renaming the column so it's just more readable. That's all you're doing. And the alias goes right after the column you selected, selecting customer name as customer, contact name as contact person. There you go, right there. If you want your column name to have a space in it, you have to put in these brackets right here. That's why there's brackets and it doesn't show up. So thank you all for staying with me through this video. I hope you learned a lot. If you're just learning SQL, I know you're going to have to rewatch this video many times, and you're probably going to have to use other resources. And definitely go on w3schools.com. Use these interactive demos for yourself. It's great that you can actually use those demos and really play around with the data right there without having to download MySQL or doing anything else ridiculous that might be very, very time consuming. But continue to look through these. These right here are all very important commands. They're all very important commands, and they're the fundamentals of SQL. So next time you see me, we will be going through joins and a lot of these other functions left. So we did maybe the first half or so, but after that we're going to get to joining tables, which is very important. You're gonna need to know how to pull data from different tables and combine it into one result. So please remember to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next installment of what I learned in grad school this week. Hope you guys learned a lot. Please like and subscribe.